you've been such a champion for other people going through cancer, but you yourself have been fighting this battle for 8 years.
Has it only been 8 years? It feels so much longer to me.
But you have never seemed to lose your sense of humor, and I can't imagine how precious that is.
You have to have a sense of humor. You have to. Without it, it becomes very depressing, and it's hard to get out of your own way if you're like that. And believe me, this year has been extremely tough for me. I've been thrown a lot of curveballs, and ones that I never expected in a million years.
And not just with your cancer battle.
And not just with my cancer battle, personal life too. I take things very serious all at the same time, but there's only so much crying and, oh, poor me that you can do before you have to pick yourself up off the ground and say, okay, I gotta get on with this, and I gotta find a better, healthier way of dealing with it. And mine happens to be through humor.
It was like a 1-2 punch. The news about your brain cancer and the divorce came at the same time to fans.
Yes.
And obviously, seemingly came at the same time for you too.
It was like maybe, 2 or 3 days apart. So yeah, it was pretty brutal. I've loved in the past, and even though it didn't work out, it was still really beautiful. And I learned a lot from the person and appreciated them. And, even with the marriage that is now over, there were some great times. Just because it ended poorly, just because he made poor choices that, hurt me greatly, does not mean that every man is like that. I believe that my father was the most loyal, stand-up, honest, amazing human being that ever walked this earth. I believe that there are still men out there like that.
There are.
I just didn't find one this time around.
Well, I hope you do. What are some of those qualities besides him being a stand-up man like your papa that you're looking for?
Loyalty, honesty, humor.
Right?
Like, oh my God, please don't take yourself so seriously.
Truly.
Because it
ain't worth it.
It's not worth it, and life is hard enough.
What about children? Because I recently read that you would be open to having your own children. Is having a family still something that you want to do?
I would. I, have looked at adopting and all sorts of different options. I think I struggle a lot with my cancer diagnosis and how fair it is. Right now I'm in treatment. I'm gonna just see how that treatment works, see what's coming down the pipeline with clinical trials. And if I feel like I can give a long enough time to a child, then I'll definitely do it.
Well, if that path is something that you should be taking, then you would crush it.
Thank you.
Your mom has been a great source of inspiration for you. How so?
The amount of inner strength that this woman has is pretty astonishing. My father was incredibly sick for most of my life, and she took care of him, and then to turn around and have to take care of me sometimes. 76 years young. And, she still wants to work, and she wants to, she's vivacious and a go-getter. Both my parents really, are integral to the kind of person that I am today and how I deal with everything.
I was, I'm horrified that I can't keep a relationship together. I think it's like a reflection on me. Although I kind of like this one, I don't know. I think it's on him.
You've got a lot going on right now. You've got a podcast. Let's be very clear, and I want to be clear with you. What are we talking about here? Just how personal are you getting in this podcast?
I get very personal. It's basically if somebody wrote a memoir, I'm just doing the audio version that every week is sort of a new chapter, if you will. Except we don't go on a certain timeline.
Yeah.
It's all about the past, the present, the future, hopes and dreams. I tell it all.
But still, I don't want to be a failure in life. I've failed 3 times at marriage, and I still believe in love.
It's what happened in my 3 marriages, and what happened on Charmed, what happened on 90210.
Brandon, you're making it sound like it's our fault the game was canceled.
You might even have some of those co-stars on. So
Yes.
What conversations are you hoping to dive into with those co-stars?
Well, I've already had some on, and without giving anything away, we just talk about that past and what that was like.
Was it always good?
And it wasn't always good.
Okay, we've got everyone convinced that we have things under control.
At the end of the day, my whole point with the podcast is that, yes, I can go back and I can tell the truth of things, which may seem disruptive, but there's always a positive. Because if you have to look back and learn and grow and evolve. And I think for me, also doing the podcast right now, it seems to be very cathartic. It's like the best form of therapy you can have.
And free therapy.
And free therapy. So you get to work stuff sort of out as you're talking about it, where maybe there was a situation in your past where you said, I'm never going to forgive and I'm not going to forget because it was just that bad. But then while talking about it on the podcast, you're like, okay, I release it now. I don't really care as much about it.
Yeah, you've addressed it. You can move on. It's
Yes.
amazing what life years, wisdom, and life experiences, particularly the difficult ones, can give us a new kind of like outlook on.
It's priorities,
Yes.
right? So it's particularly when I discuss this and then the next day you have, like I have on my oncologist and my radiation oncologist is coming on and the
Talk
brain
about
surgeon.
perspective right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also realize the perspective of the podcast is that you really want, this great sort of healthy balance with it of telling your whole life story. But part of that is really the cancer journey and making sure that if there's any way I can help anybody else who's going on this journey, if they can listen in and learn something that might help them, then that also deserves equal, if not more, time on the podcast.
Have there been times in your career that you felt like you have been counted out because of your diagnosis with breast cancer?
I think I've been counted out so many times, and not just because of cancer, because I was a strong woman who spoke up against male producers in the 90s. I'm very used to it at this point in my
Really?
life. Yeah, I'm so used to it. And that's all that really matters. As long as I never give up on myself, and I believe that I can do it, and I'm doing it for all the right reasons, and I have my support system around me, that's all that matters.
What do you hope the takeaway is for folks in the industry that might tune into your podcast?
I mean, I just hope that any industry, whether it be the entertainment industry, whether it be at banks, whether it be wherever people are getting jobs, to not look at people with stage 4 cancer, whatever kind of cancer it is, and count them out and say, well, they're going to get too tired, or they're not going to remember this, or they're going to make mistakes. I hope that they realize that people with cancer, really any terminal disease, there's a level of appreciation for every second, every day of your life that you pay attention to detail even more. People that are sick like I am need to work desperately because it's what helps us keep going forward.